Chile records 45 deaths from coronavirus per 100,000 inhabitants, making it the most affected in South America in this regard. Protests in the U.S. city of Portland ended up in tear gas and flashbangs after protesters knocked down the fence of Hatfield Federal Courthouse. The Egyptian parliament will discuss this Monday a possible military intervention in the Libyan conflict. Hello from the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba. This is From the South. I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Chile records 45 deaths from coronavirus per 100,000 inhabitants. These figures place the southern country as the most affected in this regard in South America, even above countries like Brazil and Colombia. According to economists, the neoliberal model that rules the country is the main cause of the scourge. Economists point out that the government of Sebastián Piñera prioritizes subsidies to the private health system, neglecting the public network, a situation that could trigger a collapse of the country's health system. The Chilean government has presented a 5-stage plan for the gradual reopening of the country, one of the most affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
This plan,
which will be a step-by-step, cautiously, prudently, following the recommendation of science, the World Health Organization, the Advisory Council, will be applied gradually and flexibly, always listening to the communities, and always carefully seeing the reality of each commune and region. The step-by-step plan follows 5 stages. First, quarantine, that many communes are observing today. Second, transition. Third, preparation. Fourth, initial opening. And fifth, advanced opening.
Cuba, for the first time in 4 months, has reported no positive cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. By the end of Sunday, the Caribbean country figure stands at 2,446 cases of the novel coronavirus since the first case was reported on late March 12th. The head of epidemiology of the Ministry of Public Health, Francisco Duran, also updated that the country has discharged from hospital 11 patients and there is no death reported from 9 consecutive days. Mexico has reported more than 5,300 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. The Secretariat of Health informed on Sunday in its daily report that death toll has reached almost 40,000 after reporting 276 deaths in a day. The country has an estimate of 50,000 active cases, which can infect if the percentage of suspects who normally test positive is included. This Monday and across the week, some 14 states woke up in red color, the highest alert level, while 18 others will keep in orange color. The Public Health Ministry has reportedly advised the Guyana civil aviation authorities that the reopening of the country's airports for international travel should be shifted to August 28th. Originally, Guyana's airports were scheduled to be open for international travels on July the 1st. But owing to the spike in COVID-19 cases, that date was postponed to August the 1st. Now authorities have disclosed that the timeline should be altered once again. According to the manager of aviation security, Abraham Doris, the decision has not been made on the Public Health Ministry's recommendation.
Doris said GCAA's checklists facilitate sustainability, consistency, and compliance.
And a total of 150 candidates will contest the August 10th general elections of Trinidad and Tobago. The Elections and Boundaries Commission's EBC made the announcement in a release on Saturday and said the candidates were from among 18 political parties. However, only the incumbent People's National Movement is fielding candidates in all 41 seats, while the United National Congress has put 39 candidates in Trinidad. In the last general elections in 2015, the current Prime Minister, Keith Rowley, led the People's National Movement to a 23-18 victory over then People's Partnership Administration of Kamla Persar Bisesard.
Will be listed on the EBC's website by Wednesday.
During an interview for the media Page 12, the president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, highlighted the need to resume the Latin American integration project and the importance of building a new and more solid economic system, arguing the mistrust of the current capitalist system.
Then the North American Spanish, French, or German actions one day picks up and the next day an outbreak of coronavirus appears in those countries. The shares are falling apart in 2 minutes. We have to think about a more solid economic system, and I believe that the world economic system has ceased to be solid when the financial comes to the fore and the productive go to the background, because the truly solid things about capitalism is what it produces.
This Sunday marked the 41st anniversary of the Sandinista revolution in Nicaragua, where thousands celebrated across the country. Thousands gathered at the Revolution Square in Managua to remember the fight against the dictator Anastasio Somoza and the victory of the Sandinista National Liberation Front on July 19, 1979. Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega praised the independence legacy in the country in a time of pandemic.
We are celebrating this anniversary during a pandemic, which has affected all countries, and the most developed countries the most, because their economic model, which has been sold to us as perfect, but it's only perfect if it does not hurt the great capitalist powers. We are celebrating this anniversary during a pandemic, which has affected...
And we're taking a very short break now, but we'll be right back, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. A protest in the U.S. city of Portland, Oregon ended up in tear gas and flashbangs after protesters knocked down the fence of Hatfield Federal Courthouse overnight. The mayor of Portland demanded a withdrawal of federal officers, accusing them of dangerously escalating the situation with abusive and unconstitutional tactics against protesters. The accusations followed another night of protest in Oregon City that saw a police association building set aflame. The Oregon Attorney General and the American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit laid against the federal government, accusing it of overstepping its powers and injuring or threatening peaceful protesters. The Portland protests are part of a nationwide wave against police brutality sparked by killing in May of George Floyd. Russia on Monday registered the lowest death toll in 2 months due to the coronavirus. 85 deaths during the last 24 hours was the report issued by the operational headquarters of the coronavirus pandemic management. The number of infections has fallen to less than 6,000 for the first time since April. Currently, the country has more than 777,000 cases, with a death toll of over 550,000 from the disease. We stay in Russia, where the country also predicts the effectiveness of a Covid-19 vaccine developed by Russian Defense Ministry scientists. Researchers from the National Research Center for Epidemiology and Microbiology carried out preclinical tests in animals, allowing the prediction that the neutralizing activity of the virus will provoke a long-term humoral immune response in the human body. The last group of participants in the vaccination tests against the new coronavirus is being discharged this Monday in Moscow. Their tests have resulted in the detection of antibodies against the virus, while the components of the vaccines are considered safe and well tolerated. Scientists at Oxford University said Monday their experimental coronavirus vaccine has been shown in early trial to prompt a protective immune response in hundreds of people who got the shot. Researchers first began testing the vaccine in April in about 1,000 people, half of whom got the experimental vaccine. In a research published on Monday on the journal Lancet, scientists said that they found their experimental COVID-19 vaccine produced a dual immune response in people aged 15 to 55, and the response lasted at least 2 months after they were immunized.
We have found that in over 1,000 people, the safety profile looks rather good. and reassuring. And importantly, we are seeing good immune responses in almost everybody. Now, what this vaccine does particularly well is trigger both arms of the immune system. So in addition to neutralizing antibodies, which other vaccines do, we also see a very strong T cell. Even 2 billion doses may not be enough. That's a huge achievement if we can do it. No vaccine has ever produced 500 million doses in a year. So we definitely want other vaccines to work. We want them to share the activity or the burden, if you like. I think the vaccine is the way out. And I think that we're going to need a lot of vaccine because there was a hope that if we had a vaccine quickly, we could put out the pandemic and it wouldn't come back. I think it's going to be very difficult to control this pandemic without a vaccine.
On Monday, EU leaders gathered for another session of talks after 3 days and nights of long debate failed to agree a 750 billion euros bundle of loans and grants to drag Europe out of the recession caused by COVID-19 pandemic.
But I have the impression that European leaders really want an agreement. They show the clear will to find a solution, and we need a solution. The European citizens need a solution. The European Union needs a solution, needs an agreement to overcome this crisis and to prepare Europe for the future. I'm positive for today. We are not there yet, but things are moving in the right direction.
I entered this day with a great deal of determination, a willingness to act and move forward with colleagues and once again to carry this European ambition that we need. And I say this with great force. Not to be at the forefront of compromise and ambition today means taking the risk of coming back to harder times and, for some people who are concerned about this, that in the end, it costs us more. Last night, after long negotiations, we worked out a framework for a possible agreement. This is a step forward and gives hope that an agreement may be reached today, or at least that an agreement is possible.
In Vietnam, the last 243 COVID-19 cases were people who returned from abroad since April 16, meaning that up to now the country has been 95 days without local transmission. In its first report of the day, the commission in charge of containing the pandemic noted that of the 383 people who suffer from the disease, 357 have fully recovered. The number of those recovered could increase in the next few hours since of the 26 who are still hospitalized, 11 tested negative. Vietnam has not reported any deaths from COVID-19, which along with the small number of cases, the Asian country has earned the praise of the WHO specialists and institutions around the world. Chinese scientists are ready for the launch for China's first Mars exploration mission after completing multiple integrated rehearsals recently. According to the China National Space Administration Tianwen-1, the first Mars probe of China is scheduled to launch in late July or early August. Despite the COVID-19 epidemic this year, the team has been actively adjusting personnel allocation, coordinating the test, and mapping out switching schemes for different sites. The fourth Long March 5 rocket was vertically transported to the launching area at the Wenshan Space Launch Center on Friday.
We have carried out multiple coordinated maneuvers over flight and control, together with launching site system, the rocket system and the probe system, which have verified the validity of interfaces between different systems and the flight program, and also indicated that we are capable of conducting the first Mars probe of our country. We formatted an orbit kinetic model that has some orbit with the rover, as well as the corresponding measurement model. Then we established the corresponding control algorithm to ensure that the probe lands on the designated location of Mars at the designated time and can automatically capture information to ensure it can conduct flight and control missions across Mars.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us for more. Welcome back to From the South. The Egyptian parliament on Monday will discuss possible military intervention in the Libyan conflict. The deputies plan to analyze the political and military situation of the neighboring nation. The debate will be followed by a vote granting President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi or not the necessary authorities to militarily intervene in Libya. The Egyptian forces would be supporting General Khalifa Haftar. The Libyan parliament, based in Tobruk, described as legitimate the involvement of the Egyptian military in the war they are waging against the forces of the Government of National Accord based in Tripoli. And the Syrian people went to the polls on Sunday to elect their representatives to the third legislature of People's Assembly since the adoption of the new constitution in 2012. The Deputy Speaker of the People's Assembly, Nashdad Anzour, indicated that the elections were conducted without any incidents or legal violations, which constitutes a political victory for Syria. Anzour denounced that the terrorist attacks are the same ones that imposed the economic blockade against Syria. Last Saturday, a bomb attack took place in a neighborhood in the capital, and another one targeted a polling station in the city of Buzer al-Harir in the southern province of Deraa. Syria held legislative elections last Sunday, where more than 1,600 candidates compete for the 250 seats in the parliament. Sudan has reported a drop in water levels in the Nile in what experts say could be the result of Ethiopia filling the reservoir of its Renaissance Dam. Engineer Anwar al-Sadat al-Haq Muhammad, Director General of the Khartoum State Water Authorities, said in press statements on Sunday that water pumping platforms had experienced their lowest water levels, adding that this resulted in the reduction of the current quantities of clean water produced. Last week, an Ethiopian official said authorities had started filling the reservoir of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. However, this was denied days later. Meanwhile, Egypt has said the dam will affect its annual share of the Nile's water, amounting to 55.5 billion cubic meters. Workers dig new graves in a Johannesburg cemetery as South Africa's death toll from the coronavirus pandemic passes 5,000. The peak of the pandemic in the continent's hottest hit country is expected over the next few weeks. The African country registered 85 new deaths from the virus in the last 24 hours. Figures released by the Health Ministry showed that over 13,000 new COVID-19 cases were officially diagnosed, taking the number to more than 360,000. Authorities imposed a strict lockdown in late March, but the measures have been progressively eased to avoid economic collapse. The African continent reports more than 700,000 COVID-19 cases as South Africa becomes the fifth most affected country in the world. On Monday, the continent's COVID-19 death toll was over 15,000. Half of the continent's cases are recorded in South Africa, which is the most affected country on the continent. Egypt is the second most affected nation with over 88,000 COVID-19 cases, and in third place, Nigeria with 36,000. The WHO's regional director, Matshidiso Moeti, pointed out that sub-Saharan Africa is home to more than 26% of the world's refugees. Therefore, it is necessary to step up aids to these vulnerable populations during the COVID-19 crisis. An ancient Golan rock art sheds light on mysterious cultures in the Israeli-occupied region. The chance discovery of lines carved into the boulders of an ancient tomb in what is now the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights could offer new insights into an enigmatic culture that thrived thousands of years ago. In a small clearing in the Yehudiya Nature Reserve between yellow wheats and shaded by the eucalyptus trees, huge dark basalt boulders and slabs form a small roofed chamber opening to the east. The megalithic structure is one of the thousands of so-called dolmens scattered around northern Israel and the wider region, burial tombs erected some 4,000 years ago in the Intermediate Bronze Era.
When we look inside, we saw that this is not just lines that are carved, just some stains on the wall. This is a rock art, and not just rock art, the most beautiful rock art in dolmens that I saw, and only the second one known here in the Middle East. But yes, it opens lots of other questions. Why those animals? Why in these dolmens and not others? What made this one special? And those questions are good for us because they can get us to another path of thinking and bringing us closer to the heads of those who built those giant monumental buildings here in the Golan Heights.
And to celebrate the 15 years since the launch of Telesur, our multimedia platform has produced The Sun, Our Voice Rises, alongside the famous Cuban duet Buena Fe. It's a song featuring multiple female voices and loaded with Latin America and Caribbean rhythms. And with this song, we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember that you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. For Telesur, I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Thank you for watching.
The song pays tribute to this platform of struggle and resistance.
Sonriendo entre los feroces arquitectos de zarpazos, señal que no pierde el paso, amplificando otras voces.
No one better than Buena Fe to take on the task of creating an authentic song, combining good music with intelligent lyrics. Israel Rojas managed to turn the most urgent issues facing today's world into verses.
Perhaps because it's the most unequal continent, perhaps because there's such a tremendous colonial heritage here, especially in terms of our thought, but also a libertarian tradition that emerged. So all that converge beautifully together, and that's good, isn't it? For the song that had been supported by Latin American female voices.
The arrangement of Our Voice Rises is based on urban rhythms. The charango, percussion and acoustic and Spanish guitars are equally protagonists. Musician Ernesto Cisneros confesses he's a loyal follower of Telesur, which is why he also decided to insert the theme music of the channel into the melody of the song.
I added elements of Andean music along with urban music, natural instruments and electronic music as well. That is the sound of drums combined with the real sound of the bass, and also a part with a double bass. These sounds cover several areas of our America, our Hispanic America.
In the midst of the pandemic, production was a challenge. Some declined the call from Telesur, giving in to the hegemonic and predominant cultural industry. However, these women showed courage and commitment. Our Voice Rises became a huge chorus of Latin American women.
Those who overcame all these limitations and show a special interest in participating and didn't make any kind of demand, as a matter of fact, they were women. That seems so beautiful to me, so symbolic. It made me think that Latin America is definitely a female continent. It is a continent heavy with good causes, about to give birth to all those causes so that the world will be a better place.
Everything indicates that the voice of this television network, which 15 years ago emerged from the heart of this continent, will continue to be, for many more years to come, an authentic media platform of the people and for the people, an insurgent signal of struggle and resistance.
Manipulación mediática, maltratando las conciencias, por si el lucro no descansa, pues que nuestro amor no duerma.
It's a touch of a struggle and a touch of celebration because it's Telesur's anniversary. 10.08, it is a counter-hegemonic and insurgent song, just like Telesur. Telesur is connected to the people who sing it and the people who appreciate it. The song resembles Telesur, in my opinion. We'll have to see what you think.
Fabiola Lopez, Telesur, Havana.